another edition of Conversations with CASA, a monthly news blog that explores issues and trends in the child welfare system. My name is Vicki Spriggs, and I'm the CEO of Texas CASA. My guest today is Richard LaVallo. Richard is the legal director for Disability Rights Texas in Austin. For more than 30 years, Richard has used his skills as a social worker and attorney to advocate for people with disabilities in a wide range of legal and systemic cases. Richard has also worked on legislative and public policy issues dealing with education, mental health, foster care, and juvenile justice. Richard, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And we go back decades. So
decades.
It's really
Agencies.
wonderful. Yeah, agencies, exactly. Right. Can you briefly explain to our audience the role of disability rights?
Sure. Disability rights is the protection and advocacy system for the state of Texas. We're a federally funded program, and we have the authority not only to represent people with disabilities, but also investigate abuse and neglect involving people with disabilities. And we represent people in a wide range of areas.
Super, thank you. So there was a series of articles written by the Dallas Morning News concerning Medicaid benefits for children in foster care and the problems and tragedies related to this population, with these children. Can you share the way that CASA advocates can advocate for children with healthcare issues and how they might intersect with disability rights?
Sure. We've been focused on the whole issue of Medicaid benefits, both medical and behavioral health services for kids in the foster care system for ages. And we've been complaining about the difficulty in getting access to services, as well as representing individual clients and trying to appeal. And the bureaucracy within the state managed care entity has been really difficult in helping access these services for kids. Even in our role, we're often appointed as attorney ad litem to represent kids. And we're primarily brought in to either deal with a medical issue or a mental health issue. And even with our expertise in representing people with disabilities, we've had trouble accessing services. And so when you talk about the Dallas Morning News article, a lot of the people that were in that article were our clients, and that we provided a lot of information and background to the Dallas Morning News to support their effort in exposing the failure of Superior Star Health providing services to foster kids.
So how does a CASA volunteer know when to reach out to disability rights and how to contact disability rights?
Well, typically, CASA, first of all, the CASAs are well aware of the medical and mental health needs of kids. And I think that the bottom line is that when a kid is being denied access to services or services are being delayed or things aren't just happening from the standpoint of Medicaid providing the medically necessary services, because I think one of the problems that we have with most people in the foster care system is that they don't understand the full array of services that kids are entitled to. And so I think it's important for CASAs to understand that the Medicaid is required to provide all medically necessary services, so it's very broad. And so the first thing is to identify the need for services. And then the way that we get involved is twofold. One's, in particular counties, we can get appointed as the attorney ad litem and come in and as a co-attorney ad litem to represent kids in accessing these services. But we've also represented a lot of kids, especially kids that are medically fragile, where the foster parents contact us, and we end up representing them in Medicaid fair hearings in order to get in-home nursing services, adaptive equipment, attendant care services, and things that our normal healthcare lawyers do.
Super. Do you have the number so
Sure.
that our watchers would know who to call or where to
yeah,
call?
they can call our intake, and the number is 512-454-4816. And that's the general intake line for Disability Rights, Texas. Typically, when we get approached where someone's asking us to get appointed, normally they have to approach the court, and then the court will contact us as to whether or not we're able to accept the cases. Right now, we have lawyers that are handling cases in the Houston area and Central Texas.
Any plans for expansion?
In the future. But with respect to other Medicaid services, if there's a denial of any Medicaid service, we can just do a normal intake and represent a child without even getting appointed as attorney ad litem.
Okay, thank you. If there was anything you could tell a CASA volunteer or would recommend to a CASA volunteer to know, do, look for, what would it be?
You know, it's sort of interesting from the standpoint of what a CASA can do or what they can look for. And a lot of times, based on my seeing what happens in cases, often someone will say a child needs a particular service, and the burden, like a psychiatrist or a certain type of therapy, and the burden shifts to the CASA to find a provider. And that's not how the system is supposed to work, is that the Star Health or Superior are required to provide support and to do the case management to assist in getting services. So as a result of the Dallas Morning News articles, we ended up having a meeting because we had not only were involved in those articles, but we also testified at the hearings dealing with Medicaid and kids in foster care. And as a result of our testimony, we were approached by Superior. And so we've have been having meetings with them. And one of the things that they have offered to Disability Rights Texas that I think every CASA should do, and that every child that is Medicaid eligible is entitled to a behavioral health service manager and a physical health service manager. And so in each case, so if you have a mental health issue or if you have a medical issue, Superior is supposed to have a service manager that participates in the treatment planning and the assisting folks in getting services. So every child in Texas that's in foster care should have both a physical and behavioral. And so that everyone, so whenever you're having meetings or you're trying to get access to services, the Superior people need to be at the table. And that they're the ones that are supposed to be trying to find services and linking you up to various services. And the way to access these services is you can call 1-866-912-6283. And from our perspective as advocates, because Superior has been really responsive to disability rights. And so now we'd like to open this up to make it systemic around the state and to see whether or not they're providing these people with these managers, service providers, and also, if they're not, to let us know so that we can try to get the system to provide those supports. Because I think the bottom line is that you have to engage the people from Superior to be at the table, to first know your kids, know what services they're needing. An example would be, you have a kid that's in a psychiatric hospital. We know that there's so many kids languishing in psychiatric hospitals. And so when a child is ready to be discharged from the hospital, there should be discharge planning meetings where you talk about what types of services a child might need when they're being transitioned out of the institution. The behavioral service manager needs to be at the table. And they need to be able to tell you what are the array of services they could provide instead of not disclosing or hiding the ball as to what's available. And the one thing that everyone needs to realize, you need good evaluations to support your request for services, but also the scope of the services being provided, not only medically, but behaviorally. It's what's medically necessary. And so if you have a service that may not be listed in the array of services that Superior is offering, if it's medically necessary, you can make an argument they have a duty to provide it.
Super. Richard, thank you so much for being with us.
Sure.
And thank you for being with us today for this edition of Conversations with CASA. We'll see you next time.